Strike Freedom Gundam. Hey, welcome back, Robert184, 2Rs2Bs, gundam.tk, and I'm here with the third part of my review of the Master Grade Strike Freedom Gundam, and remember, this is the full burst mode. And if this review was just of the Master Grade Strike Freedom, remember that the conclusions would be pretty different. But anyway, let's put this together and see how the Gundam stacks up. When all is said and done and you've got just the Gundam with the sidearms on there, that is a pretty impressive looking Gundam. So when a few things pop out at me, first of all, the gold that Bandai provides, I know that I've been talking about this at length, but the gold does a very, very good job of popping out here, and I'm talking about the hands, the waist, here in the chest section, down on the ankles. Anywhere that Bandai made it gold, it just pops. And with me, I use two different gold markers, and when I use the new one with the fresher paint, that shows up and does a pretty good job of matching the original that Bandai included. But in terms of looks, I've always liked the looks of Strike Freedom even without the backpack on. The proportions just look good, the length is good, and if you've seen the old one 100th, this one puts it to shame. Posability can be a little bit of an issue here, getting all the legs in just the right place, but with the skirt armor up, you're able to kick the leg all the way forward, and with this up, you're able to bring the legs out this far, and conceivably if you spun these around to the back by dropping down this waist armor, once you do that and you swing this around, of course that just pops off, they're not on a very solid mount mechanism there, you're able to bring the legs up. You can see a little bit here that the thigh wants to pop off the hip joint, but you are able to get full splits. In terms of the upper body, the arms without a backpack on are not going to be impaired at all. You can rotate the arm and shoulder all the way around. The arm and shoulder, because they're separate though, you may get some separation here, so you're going to want to be careful that you put the arm all the way in. And one thing that I've always noticed about these Strike Freedom-esque kits is that these forearm piece is always going to pop up, so don't be too surprised that that happens all the time. Otherwise, very solid mobility, and you're able to bring the shoulders forward like this, so pretty impressive so far. You can see that the shoulders have a really good range of motion there going forward, and this back thing is of interest for me. If you pop that, then you're able to move that up, and when you do that, you're able to bend the whole chest all the way back, so all of a sudden Strike Freedom could be staring almost straight up at the sky with his double jointed neck. But to get him fully loaded, well, besides that happening the first time. So as you saw, because of the weight issues, you're going to have to do some fiddling around with the lower legs and just basically getting them underneath and giving it a proper center of balance. And in the case of the Master Grade Strike Freedom, this is the second time I built it, I remember having the same problems earlier where these legs are more fidgety than I expect. Basically, everything gets into place, and then when you put it down on the ground, they actually shift a little bit. So you're going to have to be careful to get everything in just the right pose, and basically just keep your hand behind it just in case it does go tumbling back. But once you get that dealt with, well, you have what you see here, which is probably... I'm a big fan of Strike Freedom for the way that it looks. The series, the character, whatever, you can take that, but just the mobile suit, for me, is a huge winner. And especially the way the shoulders, the way they come up, I think that looks good as it is. But when you add the backpack on there and the way the Dragoons just go off to the side to offset the gray guns on the hips, they almost disappear unless you're looking at them from the side. But the shoulders and the backpack, this whole combination, along with the bling, is a winner for me. The Strike Freedom model comes across as being tall and skinny. And if you just look at the body, it's very, very skinny, or much skinnier than the original Gundam there on the left. But by the time you add on the backpack, of course, he's just going to widen out considerably. But it looks like the proportions are just about right for this height of a Gundam. The V-dash isn't as embarrassed to show up in height comparison segments anymore, but even with the overhang cannons on his back, he doesn't even come close to matching the height of the Strike Freedom with its backpack included. And as I break out the bigger lens for my camera, you can see that the Dragoons have no problem deploying even in a standing position, despite the fact that pretty much all over the box they're only showing him in aerial poses. Sorry, Victory Gundam, you still come across as looking almost like a high grade. With the good holes there on both sides of the weapons, you have no problems at all putting these into the manipulators. In a lot of video games, Strike Freedom can really come across as just being a spammer from distance, which makes sense when you consider what kind of weapons it has, but it's certainly no slouch in the melee department either in games like Gundam vs. Gundam, etc. So as it comes around here, I'm just trying to see what you can do with the legs, and I've tried sweeping the wings back a little bit, which just gives it the impression that it's moving dynamically, and it could actually do a better job than I expected, but again, if you look at the angle that he's leaning at, it's really time to get him up in the air. If you use Strike Freedom's regular stand that the regular one and full burst mode both come with, you'll notice that there's 3 parts that you have to use to get this attached, which seems like a little bit of overkill. But it is sort of nice that they have sort of 3 positions. Do you see them in there? And at the top of this is a slit, so you can put that on here, here, or here, and accordingly you can bend this one in 1, 2, or 3 different positions. When you put him up, the first thing that you'll notice is just how long this original action base is. And I swept the wings off to one side just to demonstrate that it's not really that stable of a mount, even though, as I mentioned before, that there are 3 different attachments. You could play with those and sort of trick it into being balanced, but just by itself, if you do anything other than have everything perfectly symmetrical, don't expect him to do much more than wobble. But with some patience, you can get him pretty much exactly where you want him to be. Now with the exact same pose on the regular action base, or the special one that comes with this, you'll notice that with the 3 pieces down below, first of all, it's a little bit hard to get these pieces popped on and off depending on which base you're going to use, but they also don't stay together all that well, and they have some give there. So when you combine that with the weight, I've got, of course, the wings in the most difficult position right now, but he's just being thrown back through the poor design of the action base and its 3 separate attachments, as well as just being back heavy. With actually bending that a little bit forward though, and trying to fix the feet and the balance slightly, you can fix that up a fair bit though. Seeing Strike Freedom with his wings folded in is not quite the same. Zabanya, you might have to eat your heart out after seeing this. To go into it again though, you're still going to have a lot of problems, even with this relatively symmetrical pose, in getting him to stay just right on this action base, because again, those 3 pieces, very, very loose. And there, just as soon as I stop the stand, he just sort of tilts off to one side. If you limit yourself to just one pose though, and if you're a fan of spam, this is actually coming across as looking really, really good. What I've done is down here with the action base, as long as you put everything in the center and then you perfectly put make everything symmetrical, so no legs even just being out of position, all of a sudden, despite that wobble as he spins around, he seems to be staying in place very, very well. Now, of course, there should be a whole bunch of green and red lines shooting out of him. But where it starts to lose some of its appeal is, remember, I followed the manual, putting all of the clear parts in just the right position. As you notice, one of the Dragoons is off. Yep, that's the kind of weight issues you're going to get. This was my best remaining one. It's at least not dragging. As the Dragoons deploy from the bottom there, 2 at a time, I did it from the bottom just for weight issues, what should leave you with an incredible scene is instead just going to leave you disappointed. Another issue with this too is that just because you have to line that up in the middle, you end up having the action base so high that if you keep all of these holders at the angles that Bandai recommends, they're all going to be shooting off at the ground. There could have been something like the way they did with the Master Grade Hainu, where they have them shooting off the stand or something, so that you could give the impression that they were actually coming off the wings instead of just shooting down on the ground. So that wraps up my look at the Strike Freedom. There's a lot more poses you can do. The double rifle pose works, the shield looks really good, as does the double beam saber. But anyway, how about the model itself? Stay tuned for the next part where I'll have my verdict on this, and as always, let me know what you think down below. Robert184, gundam.tk. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is a combination that has taken me far too long to put together.